introduction, welcome to another soothing journey through history. This is Boring History for Sleep, where we venture into the quiet corners of time, exploring lives long past without the rush, without the excitement, just the steady unfolding of forgotten worlds. Tonight, we will journey back to one of the most powerful and feared empires in history, the Mongol Empire. But rather than focusing on the myths or the battles, we'll look at the lesser-known, quieter aspects of life within this vast empire. We'll take time to settle into the rhythms of life on the steppes, understand the struggles of those who lived under Genghis Khan's rule, and uncover the secrets hidden in the lost corners of history. Picture yourself there, under the endless skies of the Mongolian steppes, the wind carrying the scent of grass and earth. Imagine the steady beat of hooves beneath you, the low murmur of the campfires, and the vastness of the land stretching out in every direction. In this tranquil space, we will explore a world of hardship, mystery, and power, all at a calm, steady pace, perfect for relaxation and restful sleep. As we move through the segments, let your mind drift along with the stories of the past. And when the time comes, allow yourself to float into a peaceful sleep, knowing you've learned just a little bit more about this ancient empire. Segment 1. Why it sucked to be a herdsman in the Mongol horde. Imagine yourself waking up before dawn. The cold Mongolian air sharp against your skin. The faint glow of the rising sun barely touches the vast expanse of the steppe. The earth is firm beneath your feet. The grass a pale green, tinged with frost. You are a herdsman in the Mongol horde, and today, like every day, you have a long journey ahead of you. Life as a herdsman was unrelenting. There was no escaping the daily labor that demanded both body and spirit. The Mongol herdsman's primary role was to care for the horses, cattle, and sheep that formed the backbone of the empire's strength. Horses, of course, were not just transportation, they were central to the Mongols' military might. Your survival and success as a herdsman depended on your ability to maintain a strong, healthy herd. Your day began with the harsh cry of a rooster, or perhaps the sound of your fellow herdsmen stirring nearby. The sky, still dark, was filled with the stillness of morning, broken only by the distant call of birds or the sound of hoofs. There was no time for sleep once the first light appeared, for your animals needed to be tended to. You would spend your day leading them to pasture, keeping them together in a world of endless grass and sky. You would trek across the vast open spaces, the land stretching far beyond the horizon, a constant reminder of the size of the empire you were part of. The work was physically demanding. You often found yourself on horseback, guiding the herd through the undulating hills and valleys, trying to keep them together as they wandered in search of grass. Your connection with your horse was intimate. You knew its movements, its pace, its needs, much like you knew the weather and the land. Yet even with the bond between you and the animals, there was a sense of constant struggle. The Mongol herdsman's life was not one of freedom, but of labor. The cold winters were harsh, and summers brought heat that made the land shimmer with heat waves. At night, the chill of the steppe would settle into your bones, and the howling wind would often carry a reminder of the isolation that marked your life. Few luxuries could be found in this life. No warm bed, no soft pillow. Instead, you slept under the open sky, wrapped in layers of furs, hoping the weather would hold and that the animals would stay safe. And yet, there were moments, fleeting moments, of peace. The sight of the herd moving across the steppe in harmony. The rhythm of their movements beneath the setting sun could bring a deep sense of satisfaction. But it was fleeting. Soon enough, the work would continue, and the harshness of the Mongol steppes would demand your focus again. As a herdsman, your life was not your own, it was dictated by the needs of the horses and the herd, and by the demands of the Mongol Empire. Every day, you repeated the same motions, tending to the animals, moving them across the land, and, above all, ensuring their survival. In this steady repetition, life took on a rhythm, one that you could never escape. Yet, this was also the foundation upon which the empire was built. The Mongol horde relied on its herdsmen to maintain the strength of their animals, which were central to both their military campaigns and daily survival. The herdsman's role, though grueling, was integral to the empire's success. Without the constant care of the animals, the might of Genghis Khan's army could not have been realized. The life of a herdsman in the Mongol horde was far from glamorous, but it was necessary. It was a life of labor, perseverance, and endurance. As you settle into the rhythm of the story, imagine yourself on the steppe where the land stretches endlessly before you. And your task is simply yet, it is the foundation upon which an empire rests. Segment 2. The campaigns of Genghis Khan. Imagine the silence of the steppe, broken only by the sound of hooves. The steady rhythm echoing across the wide open land. Now, picture a scene far removed from the quiet life of the herdsman. This is the world of the Mongol campaigns, where strategy, battle, and ruthless expansion marked the very heartbeat of Genghis Khan's empire. The Mongol army was a force like no other in history. Genghis Khan's campaigns were the defining moments of his reign, and they shaped the world in ways that are still felt today. But these campaigns were not just about bloodshed. They were about strategy, logistics, and the movement of men and horses across vast distances. The Mongols were unmatched in their ability to travel swiftly, to strike with overwhelming force, and then vanish into the wilderness once more. The preparation for these campaigns began long before the first battle cry was heard. The Mongol military was an organized, efficient machine. A typical Mongol army was made up of highly trained soldiers, primarily cavalrymen, who were expert archers and could shoot arrows with deadly accuracy, even while riding at full gallop. Horses were their most valuable asset, and the Mongols were experts in caring for them, ensuring that each horse was strong enough to endure the grueling pace of their campaigns. Before Genghis Khan's conquests, the Mongols were a loosely united group of tribes, often at odds with one another. But under his leadership, these tribes were welded together into a cohesive and highly effective military force. Genghis Khan's vision of empire extended far beyond the steppes of Mongolia. His eyes were set on the rich, fertile lands to the south and west, where powerful empires awaited conquest. When the Mongols set out on a campaign, they did so with precision. Their movements were deliberate, and their tactics were often a mixture of psychological warfare and military brilliance. The Mongol army would advance with incredible speed, often catching their enemies by surprise. The soldiers would leave no sign of their passing, vanishing into the horizon just as quickly as they had arrived. Battles were swift and often brutal. The Mongols would strike at the heart of their enemies' territory, overwhelming them with their speed, discipline, and the sheer force of their numbers. Cities and fortresses would fall quickly, as the Mongols were skilled in siege warfare and knew how to take advantage of the weaknesses in their enemies' defenses. They used psychological tactics, spreading fear and rumors of their brutality to demoralize their enemies before a single arrow was fired. But the campaigns were not just about war. As the Mongols expanded their empire, they also brought with them a system of governance that was radically different from the ones they conquered. The Mongols, for example, encouraged trade and communication, leading to the establishment of the famous Silk Road network of trade routes that spanned the empire. These trade routes connected east and west, and it was through them that goods, ideas, and cultures were exchanged. In the aftermath of each conquest, Genghis Khan and his successors would often establish a new order. Cities were rebuilt, infrastructure was improved, and the once dominant empires of the region found themselves ruled by the Mongols, who imposed a strict but relatively stable administration. The empire thrived on the backs of trade, tribute, and the vast labor force that underpinned the Mongol economy. But despite the empire's success, the campaigns came at a steep cost. The destruction of cities and cultures left lasting scars on the world. The devastation brought by Genghis Khan's forces was immeasurable. Entire populations were wiped out, and countless cities were erased from the map. And yet, From the ashes of these conquests rose a new, unified empire, one that would stretch across much of Asia and into Europe. The Mongol campaigns, while violent and destructive, also paved the way for a new era of exchange between East and West. The conquests led to the sharing of knowledge, technology, and culture, influencing everything from agriculture to astronomy. The rise of the Mongol Empire brought with it a fusion of cultures that reshaped the medieval world. As you listen to this history, imagine yourself riding alongside Genghis Khan's army, the wind whipping past you, the landscape a blur as you charge across the vast steppes. The thundering of hooves, the smell of dust and sweat, the urgency of the campaign. It's a world far removed from the peaceful herding of cattle. Yet it is all part of the same empire, one built on the strength of its people, its horses, and its conquests. Segment 3, The Lost Archives of Karakoram. Now, we shift from the open steppes and the roar of battle to a quieter, more mysterious corner of the Mongol Empire. Imagine yourself standing in the ancient city of Karakoram, the heart of Genghis Khan's empire. The city, once a thriving center of culture and administration, now lies in ruins, its secrets buried beneath the sands of time. Karakoram was more than just a military stronghold. It was the administrative center of the Mongol Empire, a place where decisions were made, treaties were signed, and the vast machinery of the empire was governed. Located along the Silk Road, Karakoram was a melting pot of cultures with merchants, scholars, and artisans from all corners of the empire coming together to exchange goods and ideas. But the city's most intriguing feature was its archives. The lost archives of Karakoram are shrouded in mystery, as they were largely destroyed when the city fell. These archives held the records of Genghis Khan's reign, the laws and decrees that governed the empire, as well as accounts of the daily lives of its people. They were a treasure trove of information that could have shed light on the inner workings of the Mongol Empire and the vision of its great leader. It's said that the archives were kept in a large, meticulously organized building in the center of Karakoram. The documents, written in various languages, Mongol, Persian, Chinese, and others, were carefully recorded by scribes. They chronicled everything from military campaigns to the administration of distant provinces. From the vast network of spies that monitored the empire's subjects to the detailed records of tribute and trade. Unfortunately, when the city was sacked in the 14th century, the archives were lost. Much of the written history of the Mongol Empire was destroyed, leaving us with only fragments of knowledge about the empire's inner workings. What remained were the accounts of travelers, historians, and merchants who passed through the empire, leaving behind glimpses of what life was like under Mongol rule. Yet, despite the loss of these archives, some remnants of Karakoram's history have survived. Archaeologists have uncovered fragments of documents and artifacts that offer insights into the city's past. Among these are seals and inscriptions that provide clues about the administration of the empire, as well as remnants of the city's infrastructure, including roads, marketplaces, and religious buildings. Imagine yourself walking through the ruins of Karakoram, the air thick with the scent of dust and the weight of centuries. The city, once a symbol of Mongol power, now lies silent, its secrets hidden beneath the earth. Yet, in the quiet of the ruins, there is a sense of something greater empire that, though lost to time, still holds sway over our understanding of history. While we may never fully recover the lost archives, the fragments that remain offer a tantalizing glimpse into the inner workings of one of history's greatest empires. Through these remnants, we can imagine the vibrant city of Karakoram as it once was a place where cultures collided, where the power of Genghis Khan's rule was felt in every corner of the empire, and where the future of the Mongol Empire was being written. As you settle into the rhythm of this story, picture yourself standing among the ruins, the wind whispering through the remnants of the city. In this moment, the past and the present seem to blur, and the lost archives of Karakoram come alive in your imagination, offering one last chance to glimpse the forgotten history of the Mongol Empire. Segment 4. The Khan's Tent. Power, ceremony, and administration on horseback now. Let us turn our attention to the very heart of Mongol power, the Khan's tent. The tent, a seemingly humble structure, was in fact the epicenter of the Mongol Empire's vast administrative and ceremonial life. Imagine stepping inside, where the flickering glow of a fire casts shadows on the richly embroidered walls, and the scent of animal furs mixes with the fresh air of the steppe. In the world of Genghis Khan, power was not exercised from a distant palace, but from the mobility of a tent, carried with the army wherever they went. The Khan's tent was not merely a place for resting, it was a space of immense significance, where decisions that shaped the fate of the empire were made, where feasts were held, and where rituals of power and governance were performed on horseback. From military campaigns to the daily administration of their vast territory, Genghis Khan himself, though an unrelenting conqueror, understood the importance of unity and structure within his empire. His tent served as a meeting place for trusted generals, advisors, and officials who helped maintain the order and efficiency of the empire. The power exercised within the tent was not only administrative, but also symbolic. The Khan, as the supreme ruler, was the central figure in these gatherings, and the ceremony surrounding him reinforced his authority. Imagine the reverence with which the Mongol court would approach the Khan as he sat on his raised platform, his presence commanding respect. Every gesture, every word was imbued with significance. His decisions were final, and his word was law. But while the Khan's tent was a place of absolute authority, it was also one of practical necessity. Genghis Khan's empire was vast, and mobility was key to maintaining control over such a large territory. The tent allowed him to stay close to his army, to be in constant motion, never tied down by the confines of a permanent palace. The ability to move quickly was one of the cornerstones of the Mongol military strategy, and the Khan's tent was a symbol of that fluidity. In these gatherings, the Khan's closest advisors, Sonfin, his sons, generals, and loyal subjects would play their roles in shaping the empire's destiny. Imagine them sitting around the central fire, discussing strategies for expansion, managing conquered lands, and addressing the needs of the people. The decisions made within this intimate setting were often far-reaching and could change the course of history. But the Khan's tent was not just a place for governance. It was also a space of ceremony where the Mongol elite would engage in feasts, exchanges of gifts, and celebrations of victories. The grandeur of these events was in stark contrast to the simplicity of the tent itself. Rich furs lined the walls, while elaborate rugs and tapestries decorated the ground. The air would be filled with the sounds of music and laughter, a brief respite from the harsh realities of life on the steppes. It was here, too, that the Mongols displayed their power to visitors, merchants, and ambassadors from distant lands. The Khan's tent served as a stage for the empire's diplomacy, where important treaties were signed, and emissaries from all corners of the world came to pay tribute to the Mongol ruler. The sight of the Khan, seated in his tent, surrounded by his generals and advisors, was enough to inspire awe in even the most powerful leaders of the time. But despite the grandeur and ceremony, the Mongols were also a practical people. The tent itself was a testament to the Mongol way of life, efficient, mobile, and always ready for action. The Khan's court, though ceremonial, was also a reflection of the military efficiency that defined the Mongol Empire. Every decision made within the tent was with an eye toward expanding the empire, as reach and maintaining its dominance over the lands it had conquered. As you listen to this segment, imagine the sound of hooves outside the tent, the quiet murmur of the wind across the steppe. Inside, the atmosphere is one of calm authority, where every gesture, every word carries weight. Picture yourself sitting in the shadows, witnessing the ceremony and power of the Khan's court as decisions are made that will shape the future of the Mongol Empire. The Khan's tent, a simple structure in the vast expanse of the Mongolian steppes, was the epicenter of one of history's most powerful empires. It was here that the fate of nations was decided, where ceremonies of power were performed, and where the empire's leaders came together to maintain order and unity in a world that seemed as endless as the steppe itself. Conclusion. As the winds of the Mongolian steppes settle into silence, we find ourselves returning from this long journey through time. We've witnessed the hardships of the herdsmen, the strategy of the campaigns, the secrets buried in the ruins of Karakoram, and the power that emanated from the Khan's humble tent. Though the empire itself has faded into history, the echoes of its vastness and influence continue to reverberate across the centuries. Take a moment to reflect on what we've learned. The Mongol Empire, with all its grandeur and destruction, was built on the backs of its people who toiled, traveled, and fought day after day. It was a world that, while harsh and unforgiving, also created the foundations for a new era of exchange and connection. And as we return to the present, we can find comfort in knowing that history, in all its complexity, continues to shape the world around us. Now, as you let go of the past and the weight of the empire fades away, allow yourself to rest. The vastness of the Mongol Empire may seem distant, but the stillness of the steppes, the rhythm of the herd, and the quiet strength of the Khan's tent are here in the calm of this moment. Knowing that the history of the Mongol Empire's hardships, triumphs, and mysteries will remain ever present in the quiet corners of time. Good night and sweet dreams.